20 odd years of my life. So when the Inspiral split in '95, I suddenly started getting invited to do radio shows of my own because I could talk.
Yeah.
And I started getting little opportunities here and there, and that's why I started doing it. It wasn't like I set out to get into radio. I just little doors started open, and I said, "Yeah, I'll do that."
Just one foot. It kind of snowballed, slowly snowballed, and you
Six
took
Music.
off with
Tom
it.
Robinson at Six Music interviewed me in 2003 as part of the Inspirals tour or whatever we were doing.
Right.
And at the end of the interview, he said, "Oh, you sound great on the radio. How about you stand in for me when I go on vacation?"
Yeah.
So he went away for 2 weeks, and I moved in for 2 weeks at Six Music.
And you kind of just took over.
Yeah, I did 2 weeks, and it wasn't great radio, but it got me started on it.
Right.
And then other people along the way would say, "Come and do this for me, come and stand in here for such a body." And then all along, I had a great relationship with XFM in London.
And is that where XFM started? Was it kind of like a London thing, and it kind of branched off into, what is it, Manchester now, and where else?
And Scotland.
Scotland,
yeah.
there you go.
Well, it started in London. It was pretty much a pirate radio station when it started. It was just a little independent, experiment somebody put up. I think it's one of the guys out of The Cure, actually, at the start. The band The Cure.
Yeah.
I think Robert Smith maybe was one of the guys that started XFM. And it became this really successful alternative music station, And then in 2005, I got a call from them to say they wanted to try and apply for a Manchester licence. And because I was a bit of a name up in Manchester, they asked me if I'd get on board.
Oh, fantastic.
To convince people that XFM need this licence.
What year did all this take?
2005.
2005?
Yeah. So it took a year of the bid, takes a year. It's like bidding for the Olympic Games to come to your city. It's like that's the way it works. Anyway, XFM won the licence, and because of that, I got the job of presenting. I've been there for 9 years now, 5 days a week, 5 days a week for 9 years. So, like I say, it wasn't a career I set out to get, but just the best accident that ever happened to me. It's the best job I've ever had,
Fantastic, man.
So it was very lucky with it, and I enjoy doing it. I love doing it.
Fantastic. So speaking of like the music scene, the radio, and how that all happened, I know that you gave Noel kind of like Noel Gallagher his introduction kind of like into music when he auditioned to be the singer of the band, and he became your roadie after that. He's got a second album coming out, a solo album.
Yeah.
What's your take on his solo work, and do you remember the first time that you ever met Noel Gallagher?
Yeah, the first time I met him, I can't remember the actual gig, but he used to come to a lot of gigs. He used to follow the band around.
Right.
And he used to come backstage, and we knew him. This kid from Burnage was a big fan of ours. So this would be in probably 87, maybe early 1988 probably. Mm-hmm. And he started coming to gigs and hanging around with us. And then Stephen, our singer, left towards the end of '88, and Noel was the first person we auditioned because he said, "I want to be a singer. I want to sing for your band." And he played us demos of songs he was doing back then. I'm sure that I've still got some of his music, like little songs that Noel recorded.
Right.
In his bedroom, and they were all right songs, but he didn't have the kind of voice that we needed for the band.
Right. Were you looking more of a power voice? Because I know Noel he's got a softer voice.
Yeah.
Did you want something that kind of boomed? And
yeah, because we had 5 years with Stephen Hall, the guy that's now back in the band. He was our singer, so when he left, we needed to replicate that somehow.
Right.
And Tom Ingley, who ended up being our next singer, he had a very similar sort of tone to his voice. That's why Tom got the gig and Noel didn't.
Right.
But Noel, from the moment we met him, we all loved him, and we took him on as a roadie and a brother. And he was with us for 4.5, 5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just from the moment we met him, we all loved him. You know what I mean?
Fantastic. What do you think of his new work, like his new album coming out?
I love it. I mean,
he's got a new single called "In the Heat of the Moment."
Yeah, and I think his first "I Flying Birds" album was great.
Right, I agree.
I think it was definitely important that he moved up a notch because it was all quite mid-paced.
Right.
And it sounded like a lot of songs that had been written on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, probably like a kind of little change for for somebody to evolve their career and not kind of get tired of that.
He still showed his songwriting. His first solo album showed his songwriting off amazingly, but it wasn't the kind of music that got dance floors going in nightclubs to me. But with the new single, Heat of the Moment, it's just amazing.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and hopefully the rest of the album will be that sort of spirit. It's more upbeat, more punchy. So it's important that you change a little bit. I think what Liam did with BDI was great. The second album, getting Dave Sitek to produce it was a master stroke.
Right.
Because there's things on that second album that just weren't on the first BDI album. So it's important that you progress, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
You are,
I agree.
Apart from us, we've regressed totally to 1985.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's fantastic. On your radio show, you try to promote local bands, and that local bands here are either on the Manchester scene or the scene in England, or maybe even bands that you've heard, privately, and you're like, hey, I want to promote this band, or any specific bands right now
Right.
that you suggest, maybe, hey, give
Yeah.
them a listen.
The show that I'm doing at the moment is the drive time show, so I can't really play all the unsigned local stuff on that.
Okay.
When I used to do the evening show until a few years ago, I did the 7 till 10 slot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I could play all the local bands, get loads of people into sessions and interviews. So that was all about educating people into new music. Whereas the drive time show, there's a lot of playlists to it, a lot of repetition. The XFM's playlist is represented very much on my drive time show. But we still play a lot of new music, we still play a lot of new Manchester bands. And
Any bands we should kind of look out for?
Catfish and the Bottlemen, have you heard them yet?
Catfish and the Bottlemen?
Catfish and the Bottlemen.
And the Bottlemen.
Yeah.
Catfish and the Bottlemen.
They're from Wales, so they're 30 miles, 40 miles from here, but they're brilliant, and they're going to be the next Arctic Monkeys, I think.
Oh,
I think they'll happen in America as well.
I'm going to have to look out for them as well.
They're great. And then there's a Manchester band called Brown Brogues, as in the shoes, the brogues, Brown Brogues. And they're a two-piece, it's a drummer and a guitarist. So a lot like White Stripes, a lot like Royal Blood, Black Keys.
Royal Blood and the Black Keys?
Yeah, it's very similar to that. So they're called Brown Brogues, but definitely worth checking those
Nice.
out.
The Inspiral's planning on doing any kind of, American, North American, South American, maybe Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, anything like that?
We've done Argentina 3 years ago. I went to Argentina.
Really?
In fact, our first gig was Stephen back singing.
Mm-hmm.
The first gig that he did with the band in 23 years was in Buenos Aires at supporting Interpol to 8,000 people. And that was his first gig back in the band.
His first gig?
Yeah.
What did he think of that? Was he overwhelmed? Tickets was tried?
Amazing, yeah. It just looked like he'd been doing it forever, you know what I mean? The crowd loved it. He sung well, he looked great. So we've been to Argentina, Uruguay. I think we did Chile as well on the same trip. We've also been to Greece recently, Spain.
I know. Didn't you say you were? Yeah, Italy.
Yeah,
I think the
twice.
last time I spoke with you, you said you were just coming back from Italy, finish up the tour. How was all that?
Yeah, fantastic.
The best crowd out of that whole tour. What would you say had the most energy? I know Italian fans are pretty intense.
I think out of all those days, I think the Argentina response was the best. We did the big gig with Interpol, and then the night after we did a club gig in Buenos Aires, and that was phenomenal. Just really mad crowd, but party people, aren't they? The Argentinians love
It's
us.
fantastic.
We
Their
went
crowds
there-
are incredible.
We went there back in the 90s. In the early 90s, Inspiral Carpet was one of the few British bands that went to Argentina. A lot of people didn't want to go there because of
When was
the
this?
war.
The early 90s?
Yeah.
Early 90s, 91?
92, 93 probably. And bands just didn't go back because of the Falklands situation that happened 10 years previously. British bands weren't interested in Argentina.
Really?
And we had a record down there that was getting played on the radio, so we went down and did two tours of Argentina in 6 months.
Nice.
Played the River Plate Stadium supporting Paul Simon.
Oh, wow. How was that? Was that pretty
incredible?
fantastic?
Yeah, and that's why Noel Gallagher, when he did the River Plate Stadium with Oasis,
Right.
he does a little speech about being there as a roadie 20 years early with the Inspiral Carpets.
Yeah.
It's on the film. I think it was Noel with, I don't think it was a solo gig, I think it was Noel with his Oasis band where he does a little solo thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all over the internet. It's him talking about, I came here with the Inspirals 20 years ago as a roadie and it's nice to be back. So we had a hit record down there, we were all over the TV. And because we went there back, because we went out of our way to go there in the 90s, today, 2014, we've still got a very strong following in Argentina because we stand out as this band that did actually bother to go down there.
Yeah.
And even now we do go back there.
I know you have a lot of fans in South America.
Yeah, that's probably why, because we went out there. And also, I think our music touches a nerve a lot, in the 60s and in the 1960s, that music was very big in the southern parts of the USA and down in South America as well. It's like the garage music is Tex-Mex, it's California, it's quirky little garage record, on this it's an Italian machine called the Farfisa, but that was very popular with a lot of the American garage bands in the 60s, and a lot of the, like Mexico and beyond, down south. That's the kind of music people used to love back then.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you're a father, you have 5 children, is that correct?
Yeah.
Five children, you're a husband, you're a radio DJ, successful artist. What's next for Clint Boon? What's the next step?
I just keep on doing what I'm doing, but I always have things on the back burner. That's like, I don't know if you have that phrase over there, but it means it's like I've got my priority projects,
Right.
and then I have little things going on in the background.
Anything we should kind of keep an eye out
I'm
for?
doing a few things. One is I started doing a bit of acting, like little films and things that people make. So just little independent short films that people make. I started getting involved with those as an actor and stuff like that. So that's something I'd like to pursue. Because the little things I've made so far have turned out really good. And hopefully some of it will get commissioned and end up on the bigger screen. But the other thing, I will write a book. I've actually started writing stuff that will actually go in a book at some point.
Oh, I look forward to that.
Yeah, and then more recordings, not just with the Inspirals. I want to do another solo album. I want to do more collaborating. There's people that I want to work with. There's an opera singer that